I'm Jessica Levesque. I am the executive director at C4, and I'm super pumped today because we have two special guests with us, Kevin and Etta, and we're going to be talking about building on Ethereum. So let's start with introductions.
Building on Ethereum.
Yeah, is this our dance of the day?
That's the Austin Griffith Scaffold-eth dance.
Oh, is that what
little front rolls too.
That's right. Well, why don't we start with intros to ourselves, and then we can talk about Austin and how his little dance relates to this. So Kevin, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kevin Jones. I am an advocate for Scaffold-eth, and I'm also a lead mentor at Growick, which is a free education platform for learning on Solidity.
Very cool. Etta?
Yeah, for sure. So hi, everybody. My name is Etta, and I'm a developer advocate for Web3, and I basically love to build on Ethereum and all sorts of different projects and protocols, and here excited to talk about Scaffold-eth and what we're doing in building with Ethereum.
Very cool. So why don't we back up to this dance number real quick? Kevin, do you want to explain why that relates to what we're talking about today and who Austin Griffith is?
Yeah, so Austin Griffith is actually the creator of Scaffold-eth. He started the project. He also started a lot of other cool projects kind of in the Ethereum ecosystem. One of them being Speed Run Ethereum, which we're going to talk about later. He's also organized a group of developers called the Buidl Guidl, which we're going to get into. But really, yeah, it's just it's all about high energy and like this kind of idea of like getting excited about kind of what you can do with Web3 and like, you know, Ethereum and building decentralized applications. And so that's why we get all pumped up at the beginning, you know, trying to get the energy going.
I love it. So, okay. This live stream is a little different than what we usually do, but in the best way. I'm super excited. So at C4, we generally talk about more theoretical uses, and we explain our exams as for our Bitcoin and Ethereum exams as kind of like a driver's license. You don't need to know what's going on underneath the hood. You just need to know how to actually drive, how to put gas in, exactly like sort of if you're driving a car, how do you get from one place to another, but not how do you put the car together. But there are a lot of people that go through, they take our course, they pass our exam, and they want to continue working in the Ethereum space. And they want to work in it in a more hands-on way. So a lot of like what I do, it's less hands-on in terms of I'm not actually building anything. So people like me that love Ethereum, you know, have all these great ideas about what can happen with it, but don't really understand the underpinnings of it, don't, you know, code. What can they do to start to learn? So for me as a lover of Ethereum, but someone who doesn't use developer tools, what are the first steps that you think someone like me, someone like our listeners could do to learn about the what's under the car, what's going on behind the scenes of Ethereum?
Yeah, I don't know, Ada, if you want to take the first stab at that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's a really good question. And I feel like most people also enter the space like from a more kind of first, you know, buying their first Bitcoin or trading like a bit from that aspect. And honestly, for me, I think it's first of all to start using the tools to kind of understand before getting to like building. I know like we're going to be talking about more developer tools. We're developers, so we're going to show that. But I think the first thing that's very important is to first of all, you know, kind of first of all, set up your own crypto wallet, you know, kind of interact with some crypto tools and products just so that you kind of understand before just jumping in and saying, you know, I want to build a game on Ethereum, which could be, you know, a great idea too. But I think it's first of all important to actually become like a power user and then kind of go and more become a developer in the space of Ethereum.
Yeah,
so let's say, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, by the way, Etta did a awesome Web 2 to Web 3 kind of course that he did with Austin and Carlos, which is available on YouTube. Maybe we can like add that in the show notes or something like that. But it's kind of like goes through those kind of fundamentals, like especially just for like other developers that aren't familiar with like Web3 concepts. They want to kind of, it's almost a very similar journey of coming into the ecosystem and really understanding how you interact with Web3 applications. So I just wanted to throw that out there too.
Exactly. Thank you for throwing that in. I didn't mention that, but that's actually the first week what we go through. It's like a 4-week program, completely free, open source, all on YouTube. So basically the first week, like me, Carlos, and Austin, we go through like becoming a power user. So from setting up your wallet, you don't need to know anything about Web3 or crypto or Ethereum at all. We just kind of walk through it. Very basic, set up your crypto wallet, interact with different exchanges. Like some people on Twitter have like their name .eth in the end. We kind of go through like buying Dapps, buying NFTs and all that stuff. And yeah, we have a long YouTube series, which I'd highly recommend as well.
So what does a power user know how to do? What are so if we were to talk using that example of the driver's license, right? Like, is it the same thing? Like a power user is somebody that knows how to do all of the basics, like set up a wallet, purchase Ether, Bitcoin, or learn how to receive it in some way, how to send. What else are they learning how to do? Is that the basics?
I think they're probably learning also like decentralized finance, right? They're learning like this concept of like what is this application that they're putting their money into, like, and you kind of understand the concepts of like decentralization, and like then you're like, okay, well maybe I can use like my native currency, whatever I'm working with, in a decentralized finance way, and start kind of like interacting with different protocols. Also like lens protocol, like social media social graphs are a new thing that if you're like really getting into like Web3, you're doing things that really that are built in a way that are like make sense for Web3. And one of those things is social media. Like social media is a huge thing. And so the lens system and like the lens protocol is a good example, I guess, of a power user. I don't know, Ed, if you have any other ideas.
I can definitely second that as well. I think so. Basically, what we try to talk a lot about is, when you're interacting with like a platform or protocol, there's actually no one in between. So the full responsibility is yours as well, right? Like we always say, decentralized exchange. So if you do something wrong, you cannot call like customer support. So you kind of understand this while doing that hands-on, why you need to like save all your wallet passwords. And I think that's kind of, well, that's like a very primary thing, which you kind of understand when you get into like the more Ethereum world, that it's kind of up to you to make the security, and in the end, like you get some added benefits, but also it also means added responsibility. So that's kind of why it's important to first of all understand how those platforms work. So then when you go in to start building them, you don't like make, okay, now like this is going to fall to a bucket where people have to go and like say yes or no, or like think of all those extra stuff, which we generally have in the traditional world.
And one more thing too, I just want to mention is, we talked about self-custody, like having your own wallet. If you're dealing with large amounts of funds, I think power users usually have like multi-signature. So they'll use something like Gnosis Safe, or like something like Unchained Capital if it's for Bitcoin, or like a multi-signature wallet configuration to secure their funds too.
So for those listening who are unfamiliar with multi-sig and some of this, check out this course, check out what we have, and it'll give you the information you need to kind of understand these basics that are not that complicated, but they seem really complicated when you first hear about them. It's like multi-signature, what's a signature? Yeah. But once you start to get into it and walk through all these steps, those terms seem to, for most people, to become kind of like just, regular language that we toss around. But so, okay, we're talking about the basics of what you need, but once you understand the basics, there are more things that you can do with Ethereum. You can build on Ethereum. So can we talk about some examples of what might be built on Ethereum, and maybe then some examples of what might not need to be built on Ethereum? So let's start with, well, you guys can pick. Which one do you want to start with?
Yeah, I think things that are really good for being built on Ethereum is anything that's a peer-to-peer, type of exchange, right? If you're going to exchange some kind of digital good for a currency, you can do that with NFTs, right? You can create a platform that allows you to sell a digital item as an NFT. People can transact with you from a peer-to-peer way, and you don't have to go through any kind of third-party bank or intermediary. I also think that like any kind of data that you want to be able to control, like applications with data that you want to control. So again, we go back to Lens, which is like this concept of like a social graph, and you have control of your identity. You have control of like how your data is flowing around and visible, and who can see it and how you can share it. I think that's also a very good use case for building on a decentralized application, right?
Can you explain Lens a little bit?
Yeah, so Lens is essentially, you have a Lens profile, which is essentially is an NFT that's kind of tied to you. And then as you interact with the Lens contracts, you can write posts, you can upload videos, you can upload pictures, and you can essentially create kind of like additional components or NFTs about each like thing that you do in your life. As opposed to like, if you're using something like Facebook or Instagram or something, you're taking that video and you're posting that on their platform, and that becomes their property essentially, right? And so it's this concept of like decentralized profile and decentralized assets that are regarding, and you get to choose where that data is taken. So, and the nice thing about that is you create this social graph that can be taken with you to other decentralized applications. So in other words, like there's Lens, but then there's also Lenster, and then there's also like Orb, and there's all these different applications that are built on the Lens protocol that can interact with that protocol and get access to that information if you allow it. So it's just kind of just this interesting way of like, and then you can also do things like, like say you create some kind of artwork, you can post it and someone can collect that and they can pay you to do that. And so it's just a really way to like kind of grow community-based, decentralized social media, I think. Ed, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, so I do think like social media is a huge one. I think, as you mentioned, like, for example, today we're like locked in to the platforms we have. I guess for me, the most exciting part is that, someone can come in and build like another Twitter, and you don't have to lose all your tweets or your followers, right? The same goes with like Facebook or Instagram. Because like now all your followers and followings, all your content, even when you just get your email, right? Like you probably have like a very full email box, and I use like the same email because I don't want to like, migrate all my accounts, all my subscriptions, etc., to a new domain. So it really makes sense to just stay there because that was the first place. But if someone makes like a better email, then I might want to go there. But the switching cost is really high when you look at, consumers of that platform. So now with like something where, now you can kind of carry all your data onto another platform, I think that's really powerful. And another place where, that's why I think like Web3 social media is like really rising right now, and Lens is very leading it. I'm pretty excited to see the new use cases that come through there. I use Lens a lot, so I post a lot of like pictures of cats and stuff like that as well. But besides like social media, as you mentioned, I think the peer-to-peer where, like even fundraising, I think fundraising is a cool one. There's this protocol called Juicebox where you can basically, start a fundraising project. I recently saw, when you're getting married and you want to like collect some, buy some gifts or something, you can start like a fundraising project for that, or even just, to buy a present for Christmas or something like that. That's pretty cool because then, the person who starts the project can start it, and then you can say if this amount is reached, then you can kind of automatically stop it, and then people can withdraw until it's reached. So I think that's cool because in the end, there's like not one person which you're sending the money to, but instead like it's all open. You can kind of see who's sending the money. You can have the rules built in so that, if a certain amount is not reached and you cannot buy that Christmas tree, then everyone will get their funds back. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool to have the transparency, which is very different than what we currently see for the most part with giving. We don't know exactly where the funds go. If there's not enough made, or not enough received, sometimes they just keep it, and there isn't really this tracking, and that's what something like Ethereum, building on Ethereum, allows us to do, to be able to apply rules that we might not be able to otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think those are the use cases. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think those are the use cases. For example, there could completely be another use case where it doesn't make sense because then, using a blockchain would be expensive or not scalable as well. So I think like understanding what it's good at, like these kind of peer-to-peer exchanges where you want it to be transparent and open and have some built-in rules which are automatically enforced, I think that's why you would want to build on something like this.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention too, like, like Gitcoin and Giveth, and like, if you guys are interested in any of this kind of like public goods and like giving and this aspect of like how you can do this kind of stuff, there's a really good podcast by Kevin Owocki called The Green Pill, which goes really into like regenerative, like how Ethereum can actually like bring up the world around us in a lot of interesting ways, using like quadratic funding, which I'm not going to get into, but it's just an interesting way of like of basically like crowdfunding money for noble causes, right? And I think Ethereum's a really good use case. That's a really good one, Edda.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good that can be done with Ethereum. There's a lot of things that can be built on it that make sense. There's also things that don't make sense to use a blockchain for. And it's important to be aware of that because, like you just said, a lot of resources can be used to attain something that doesn't make any sense anyways. I know Andreas Antonopoulos has this little like quote that he says that you don't need a blockchain for that. And it's like a stop sign. It's like, if you don't need one, don't use one for it. Let's focus on the things that matter to build on. So with that being said, how do we build on Ethereum? Someone like me who maybe wants to learn more, but doesn't know where to go. I don't know. I'm not a programmer, so obviously some of that would come first. But for those who do have like basic programming skills, they know some of this. How do they even know where to go, where to start?
This might be a good transition for Edda to actually kind of show off a little bit of what Scaffold-eth is, because Scaffold-eth is a really good entryway if you have like some experience, at least a little bit with development. Edda, do you want to maybe like do like a quick demo and maybe show a couple slides or something?
Exactly. Let me share my screen and please let me know when you can see the screen. One moment.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to be able to see how all of this works. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it feels like unattainable for someone that's outside. It's outside of my wheelhouse, but to be able to see it makes it feel much more attainable and like something that isn't, I don't know, beyond me, I guess.
Yeah, we can see your screen, by the way, Edda.
Yep.
Super. This is the slideshow, right? You can see my slide right now, I hope. So I think we're gonna go through like 3 parts. We're gonna split this question into like 3 steps. So first of all, you became a power user, you kind of know, you have your own crypto wallet, you've interacted with some protocols. Basically, like the way I like to think about it is, the first step is to start to learn more and to build more. And I think most developers, or not most developers, but at least like many people like to quickly hit the ground running, right? It's like, I want to get an application up and running in 15 minutes. I just want to see it work and then I'll deep dive. So that's kind of my perspective on it. So the first step, I think, is to kind of go into rapid prototyping. And I'm going to introduce the tool which Kevin also mentioned, Scaffold-eth, just to kind of show how it's exactly done. And then once you are kind of like familiar with rapid prototyping, then you can move on to speedrunethereum.com. And then last of all, Buidl Guidl, which we're going to just touch upon. And it's not going to be a full slideshow presentation. We're going to go to a hands-on demo. It's not going to be super long too. So let's just quickly get into that. Okay, the first step. So you want to learn more and you want to start building, right? You can directly get into rapid prototyping with Scaffold-eth. Basically, Scaffold-eth is a tool which allows you to learn about Solidity while kind of seeing it directly on your application. So it has like an interface, your smart contract is here, and then your application is on the other side. And once you make changes to your smart contract, it will automatically reflect to your application.
Can I pop in and ask a question real quick?
For sure.
What is rapid prototyping?
Yeah, so exactly. So prototyping is kind of making a product, like I can say that, like quickly, well, not like a full-blown product with like a nice UI, but just something that works. And then I kind of like to think about rapid prototyping is just kind of making changes and then having that automatically reflect on your product as well. Again, it's not like you're not building Amazon.com or something like that, but more a basic product that works. So that's kind of the way I like to think about it, and rapid in the sense that you just quickly do that in loops.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we're gonna go to we're gonna also go to a live demo just quickly in like 3-4 minutes. So we'll kind of show that as well. But okay, so to find Scaffold-eth, you can directly Google Scaffold-eth. It's the GitHub repo that comes up. It's been, it basically uses 4 different parts. We can think about it in 4 different tools, I guess. So first of all, Solidity, which is the language for smart contract. So when I open the code editor as well, I'm going to go through a Solidity smart contract. And then there's Hardhat, which basically allows you to set up a local blockchain on your PC, because you kind of want to move fast and you don't want to connect to the real blockchain or test nets as well. So Hardhat also allows you to talk to other networks, but I think it's just really powerful when you have something local running on your PC. And then ethers.js is a JavaScript library that allows you to talk to Ethereum. And then it's basically a React application. Okay, so let's get to Scaffold-eth before we kind of move to the next steps. And I just want to open my demo. Okay. So I basically just downloaded it before the call. Let me, in fact, open the GitHub over here as well. One moment. Okay, so you can basically come to scaffold-eth.com, just Googled it right now. It's the GitHub repo that pops up. It's been used quite a lot. You can see the statistics over here, and you have all the instructions in here as well. The only thing I did before coming onto the call today was to clone the repo, and then to do a yarn install, just so that we kind of have it ready, so that we don't take time to install it on the live stream. But you just come here, git clone, go into the repository, and then just start a yarn install. That's the only steps I took. And then I kind of want to just directly get that up and running. So I have, okay, one moment. So I have over here my terminal. I'm in the Scaffold-eth repo, and the first thing I want to do is I want to start my chain. That's the Hardhat chain, which we talked about. So I kind of want to have a local blockchain up and running. So that's what I'll be interacting with. So that's a yarn chain. I'm opening a new tab over here, and then I want to start my React application. So I do a yarn starts. And then because this is also a smart contract, which I want to deploy to the blockchain which I started, I'm going to do a yarn deploy.
I think you might already have React started, just so you know.
Oh, you're right. I have 2 repos over here. Let me just close this one. Let's just do this again. I have too many terminals, apologies.
Don't we all? I always have too many terminals.
Let's check and see what went wrong.
You're going to need to run that command I sent you again, I think.
Yes.
Yes. And while you're pulling this up, Kevin, could you explain what yarn is and what React is, just what those terms are?
Yes. So yarn, you can think of yarn as a package manager, but it's kind of got some added functionality that allows you to not only, because a package manager installs any dependencies or requirements for an application, but most package managers just do that. But the cool thing about yarn is it also has the scripting support. So all these commands that Ed is typing, like yarn start, yarn chain, yarn deploy, these are really simple commands that are easy to memorize. And what's happening is in the background, there's a longer command that's being typed. So it really allows you to just make these kind of simple ways to orchestrate your environment. React is a front-end JavaScript language. So it's for your web application. So it's a framework that was created by Facebook, I believe. So it's one of the most popular frameworks for building web applications. And it just gives you a lot of JavaScript functionality, and it's got a lot of features in it that allow you to do kind of more extensible web applications for any kind of application. But more specifically here, we're going to be talking about for Ethereum.
Okay, cool. So there are a lot of different tools that are available to use, right? So you go into the GitHub Scaffold-eth, I already put it in the chat, and then you use that and use these additional tools that you're talking about to build, correct?
So the base version of Scaffold-eth comes with really everything you need. So you can just go with that really basic kind of it's called the master branch, which is the basic branch. But if you want to do something a little different, like if you want to build an NFT, or if you want to maybe use Next.js instead of React.js, or you want to use Vue.js, or if you want to use different components, you can do a search on that GitHub, and there might be a different branch available. But the main branch, the master branch, is really all you need to get started.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Edda.
Yeah. Yeah. So all the tool sets, like Scaffold-eth is basically like a collection of tools. So you kind of have it like all these tools all together in one bucket so that you can kind of quickly hit the ground running. Okay, so I have like a missing yarn command over here because on this one. So I had to like, I had just updated my node version. So I had like an issue with that. But basically now I have my app up and running. So this is how my app looks like on localhost. The debug contracts tab is the one which we'll be using most. And then let's kind of look at what we downloaded, right? So in the packages, you can see like your hard hat. So this is where you have your contract, which is also open on my editor over here. It's a .sol extension, which is a Solidity extension. And you can basically see, like I have a contract called your contract. It has a set purpose event. Basically, all it has is it has a purpose called building unstoppable apps. And then it has a function that allows me to change the purpose. And before we kind of make changes to the smart contract, I just kind of want to show a quick overview of what we have in this project folder. So this is the hard hat tab. The most important one is the Solidity smart contract for today. We also have our React app. So, you know, like this is the front end. You can make changes here. You can like completely change the view, the colors, etc., whatever you want to do. This is the React app. And then it also, Scaffold-eth comes with like some extra services which you kind of can configure inside here, like a subgraph, but we're not gonna be diving into it today. And as Kevin mentioned, so there's also different branches of Scaffold-eth. So if you want like something more specific, you know, like a Tailwind CSS version, you can find that in the branches as well. I'd highly recommend kind of searching there. But we have the master branch right now. Okay, so your you want to learn more about smart contracts. The first thing I'm going to do is I have this contract over here, a Solidity smart contract, but what can I do? So there's this awesome website called Solidity by Example. And I'm kind of just coming here. I don't know how to use Solidity. I'm, you know, a JavaScript developer, let's say. And Solidity by Example gives you an introduction to Solidity by showing code examples and kind of best practices. So you have like your Hello World smart contract. You know, this is just a simple smart contract, which keeps a string called greet, and that's like Hello World. Now let's say I want to make my first app. Okay. So this basically has like a count. This is just a counter smart contract. It holds a variable called count, and then you can kind of increment this count variable. And let's kind of copy that to ours to see how it works. Right now, I have like a new uint. This is unsigned integer, and I'm making it public, and I'm calling it count. Let's save this, and then I kind of want to be able to increment this, right? Like let's get this one. I'm not going to do more than that for this example, but okay. Kind of want to make formatting nicer. Okay, so all I did into my smart contract is I added a new variable, a uint, which is an unsigned integer called count, and then I added a function to increment this count variable by 1. You can like make it 2, 3, however you wish. You can add like your getter, etc., more stuff. But we're just gonna like do very basic for this demo. And then one thing I need to do is I need to redeploy this smart contract because now I made changes to it. So I need to kind of tell my blockchain, hey, you know, like I have like a new smart contract. So let's just do a deploy. Okay, you can see like the new smart contract address. You can see like how much gas was used, etc. And then this was basically now I kind of have a new smart contract. And then this will also tie into like what is rapid prototyping. But now it was already there. Now when I refresh, you can see that I have a new variable called count, and I have a function called increment, which allows me to increment this. So let's kind of start using our Scaffold-eth application. Now let's try and like increment it. Okay.
What does it mean to increment it? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, just increase it by 1. So increment it by 1, you know, 0 to 1 to 3, etc.
Okay. Thank you.
So yes. So it gave an error because we don't have money to pay for the transaction. Everything you do on Ethereum, on the blockchain, there's going to be a cost for this transaction. One superpower of Scaffold-eth as well is it comes with a local faucet, which you can grab funds from and burn your wallets. So again, I don't need to have a crypto wallet to start using it, but I can just like click this button, which is automatically going to give me some money. So now I have $11. This is all on my local blockchain. So it's basically just sending this random account over here, which was generated and added to my browser. And now, okay, the count is 0. I just want to increment it to see like if my increment function works. Awesome. Now it's 1. I can kind of increment it. Basically, all I'm doing is sending a new transaction, and I'm able to increase this. So this is kind of how Scaffold-eth works, right? Like, let's say you want like you want to just increase it by 5, right? Or 15, let's say. Just kind of testing different stuff. You want to add like other stuff as well. You can of course do that. And then once you make changes to your smart contract, all you need to do is come and deploy it again. And then you can go ahead and directly test it on your front end without kind of going to write the tests as well. I know like always important to write tests, but when you're like just quickly building stuff, it can kind of be like an extra hassle. But this is kind of the way Scaffold-eth works. And let's just show another example where this should increment by 15. Yes, so it directly went to 15 and then 30, 45, etc. So this is kind of the way, Scaffold-eth works. Let's go back to the presentation to kind of show the next steps. Okay, so you have your smart contract on one end, you have your front end on the other end. So this way you can like make changes in a loop. And then we move on to Speed Run Ethereum. And I'm gonna take like maybe 3-4 minutes and then pass it on to Kevin. But basically Speed Run Ethereum is a set of challenges which uses Scaffold-eth as a tool set to learn about different like gotchas of Ethereum. Basically there's like 7 challenges. And as you build through those challenges, you can kind of understand what are the use cases for Ethereum, how you can use Scaffold-eth, how you can like build and the challenge, like, and then let's go to the challenges, how you can like build your own multi-signature wallet, which we talked about, your own token vendor, your dice game. So throughout all these challenges, you learn about different concepts. For example, in dice game, you learn about something called oracles and why it's really hard to achieve randomness on the blockchain. In a multi-signature wallet, you can kind of understand how different wallets can work together. Not different wallets work together, but like how you can create like a wallet with different signatures. So all these challenges kind of make you understand more the superpowers and what you should be building. And then, yes, these you can kind of go to speedrunethereum.com, and let's actually do that. Completely free, open source, anyone can come in, sign up, and you just need to like connect with your wallet. You do need a wallet for this, and then kind of go through the different quests, and it uses Scaffold-eth as a template. And then once you kind of complete the dice game as well, you can join Buidl Guidl or Buidl Guidl. So once you join, it's basically a community of developers building on Ethereum and building different tools and prototypes, and also earning further contributions. And yes, this is kind of like a quick overview. I think it's also important to join like a developer community because it's like a very new ecosystem. So it kind of allows you to understand what other people are building, how you can team up, what things you can build, and just also make those connections. So that's like basically the third step in my mind, like 1, rapid prototyping, 2, Speed Run Ethereum, and 3, Buidl Guidl. Awesome. Maybe I can pass it on to you, Kevin. I think I talked a lot.
No, this is good. Perfect. I was going to say, can you show the Buidl Guidl website, the buildguild.com? Because I always like to show like what's interesting about the Buidl Guild is it's a group of developers that they're all working together, right, to kind of build up the ecosystem, as you can see right here. And there's over 670 builders, so 676 builders. If you go up to the top here, you can see there's 560 different builds, over 560 different builds of Scaffold-eth that provide some kind of functionality or some kind of added value. And then so far, the Buidl Guild has streamed over 230 ETH to different developers. So if you're a developer or looking to become a developer, it's a really good like freelance opportunity where you can actually like get paid to be a contributor and kind of work to prop up that ecosystem, right?
Can we talk quickly about why we're saying Buidl Guild, but it looks like Buidl Guidl, and what the difference is for those who are new to the space or maybe haven't heard of this before? Maybe we can do a little history on where the L and D switches come from.
Yeah, so I think it was just originally kind of like Buidl, was kind of like a slang elite speak way to say like let's build, but it was like let's Buidl. And so Austin came up with this name of the Buidl Guidl, right? Where this is just kind of funny way like to kind of reference it. I don't know, I call it the Buidl Guild, but Buidl Guidl works too. Like I don't know, it's always hard to explain. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think it all comes back from the like hodl instead of hold. So when someone was trying to write hold on to your crypto, they wrote hodl instead in Reddit. And then from that is turned into like switching the D and L in different words too. I believe that is where it came from. Maybe not.
Yeah, you're probably right. Actually, I didn't think about that.
if you see that around places, I think generally it comes from that. And now it's kind of become something like in and of itself, right? Outside of that, which is kind of funny. Like it's been used so many different ways. It's hard to track even where it came from. But the cool thing is that it is something that it has like a kind of internal meaning for people who've been around and really want to build on it. And now for those listening, you're in the know too.
Yeah, kind of like a meme, right? But it's like a crypto meme.
Yeah.
So yeah, so one thing I wanted to mention too that so I mentioned at the beginning that I'm in the Buidl Guild. I'm an advocate for Scaffold-eth. I give a lot of workshops similar to like what Edda does, but I'm also in a lead mentor for a company called Growick, which they provide like a free kind of pathway. And the cool thing about Growick is we actually utilize Speed Run Ethereum. And we also utilize Solidity by example, which Edda showed as well. And then on top of that, we have a number of kind of like quizzes and tasks and like involvement that you can do. We also have a Discord channel. So if you're looking for like a way to get into learning on Solidity or learning how to build a Dapp and on Ethereum, it's kind of a good intro because again, there's a community around it you can get paired up with someone else that's actually learning the course, and then you can also test your assumptions a little bit more than you can with Speed Run Ethereum. But Speed Run Ethereum is a good resource if you kind of want to go at your own pace. Growick is one of these ones where like it's a 8-week long course. And each week they tackle a different thing. And then we also have like a live stream every week where people can meet with me and ask questions as well, which is kind of cool because that can be a little bit difficult, to find answers to questions as you're going through courses. So
what does someone need to already know before they get into what you're offering through Growick? Like what are the prerequisites?
Yeah, so I think the prerequisites are like being able to at least understand like a programming language, like any programming language, like if you know JavaScript a little bit, and not like you don't need to be a master at JavaScript, right? But you just need to understand like the concepts of like variables, functions, loops, theory of like programming, like how an application actually works. And I think if you just have like at least a base understanding of like that, for the most part, Solidity is actually a very easy to learn language. It's complex in some ways because it can be hard to read, because you have to optimize your Solidity code to make it efficient. And so a lot of like, if you look at a lot of smart contracts, they look hard to read because they're kind of minimized to like a minimal amount of text. But for the most part, Solidity is a pretty basic language. It doesn't have floating point math, it doesn't really, have complex data structures. You can do like some really simple kind of data structures with it, but you can't get too crazy. So there's just, it's a pretty interesting learning curve to learn Solidity if you at least know one other language. On top of that, I think you just need to know how to use like an editor and a command line a little bit too. So some like level of like operating system experience would be good as well.
Okay. Are there videos on YouTube that you know of that people can go to learn some of this stuff beforehand? Is this something that like you need to take an actual course before? What's the, I guess, trajectory if you're a newbie and, just maybe passed your CEP and you want to learn more about this and sort of get into some of the behind the scenes, or maybe you don't want to program, but you just want to understand a conversation like what you two are talking about today and not be asking questions that feel like you should already know. Like, what is an increment, right? Like, what do you mean in this sense? That kind of a thing. Where does someone go to start? And by someone, I might mean me.
There's like so many resources these days for like, I think learning, right? Even if you just look at some of the like traditional like Web 2 stuff, right? There's just so many different like free courses you can take to learn something like JavaScript. Or JavaScript's a real good one, because if you can learn JavaScript, a lot of what you do in building decentralized apps and Ethereum apps is around JavaScript as well. So if anyone's looking to kind of get into programming and they're really fresh, they don't want to go straight to Solidity, learn JavaScript because it's going to be something you're going to use a lot. Alchemy just released a course. I think it's available now on JavaScript. It's like JavaScript fundamentals. That would be a really good course. They also released a Web3 course as well, which I don't know if it's out yet. I have access to it. I have early access, but I think they're releasing it soon. So there's a lot of interesting like other stuff. I don't know, Eda, if you have any other suggestions for there, but that's kind of my two.
I heard about Alchemy. I think they have like a really cool program, Alchemy University, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty cool. But I do also want to mention, the first, like before getting into Web3, to have like basic programming basics. And I think there are a lot of like online free courses, like on Free Code Camp as well, to kind of just walk through that. And then once you kind of get a grasp of JavaScript, like creating a React application and stuff like that, then you can get into, you can watch our course together, the Web 2 to Web 3 course. I know there's a really cool 32-hour blockchain development course by Patrick Collins as well, which is super cool. Highly recommend that. And then I think like there are a lot of these kind of Alchemy has Alchemy University, 30 days of Web3, a lot of free online courses, which you can kind of write, learning about Ethereum and kind of get access to them.
So let's say you either have these skills already or you go through some of these courses, you enroll in Growick. And like you said, it's a free course and you're going to use Scaffold-eth and Speed Run Ethereum, but then there's also quizzes, there's these instructor-led sessions. But then at the end, Kevin, I know that the final project is to build something. What kind of projects are being built at the end of this course? What have you seen from some of the students?
Yeah, I had one student that created like kind of an NFT project, but it was wrapped around like physical goods. So like he wanted to find a way to actually like create and sell NFTs, but then actually tie it to like physical items that are in an off-chain kind of scenario. So I think that, you know, we talked about earlier about what's like good to build on Web3, and then we talked about maybe like there's things that aren't good to be, but there's also this kind of like mix as well. So it's interesting to see a lot of these developers that are coming from a Web2 background is they're coming up with interesting ways to like bring and build that kind of bridge between both, right? And so that was a good example. There was another guy that just did like a really basic like NFT art project, which I still thought it was cool because I like NFT art. I think NFT art gives this cool ability for like, you know, everyone says like, oh, you can just right click save as, but it's not really about that. It's really about like that the artist can like have a means to reach his community and actually get reimbursed for that. So I always like NFT art projects. And I just like to see what people create.
We
I
actually
don't know,
just did a
edit.
live stream on NFT art, like artwork, and we had someone named Luna Hot come and talk about that. So it was pretty cool. So if anyone watching wants to check that out, it's on our YouTube page as well. So just wanted to plug that. Yeah. So Etta, did you have anything else you wanted to add about some of the cool projects you've seen?
So I think that's also pretty cool. So I haven't seen the ones at Growick, but I think, for example, the ones at Buidl Guidl, the Buidl Guidl builds are also a really cool example. They're completely open source and free, so you can just go ahead and like click the builds on the Buidl Guidl page, which kind of shows you what people have been building. Yeah, I like to see like different multi-sigs. I think that's a cool one. I think also, you know, kind of using zero knowledge to kind of make like more different, maybe it's a bit more advanced. Yes, that's the great t-shirt to kind of plug that into, but kind of like make more advanced applications, not advanced, but kind of ones that use privacy as well. So those are pretty cool. I think once you get started, there's just a lot of different things that you can start to be doing as well. And it's kind of, the way I see it is kind of trial and error, because you know, you can kind of start by building like a game, you know, maybe like building an NFT and then adding like something to that NFT, right? Like there's the loogies, which is something also part of Buidl Guidl, but there were like the simple NFTs, you know, different color balls kind of. They were like these small animals, I guess. And then they got like a new version where they have like now a bow tie, kind of come in different shapes. Now we're on other networks. So kind of just start with like a small NFT art project and then kind of see where that goes. But yeah, that's kind of my take, and a lot of examples on the Buidl Guidl website.
Now there's
Well,
the
and
loogies tank as well. You can take your loogies and put them in a tank. You saw that? So you buy the
Exactly, they're
loogies
now
and then you buy a
fishes.
tank NFT and then you can put the loogies inside the tank and it will render those loogies swimming around.
Yeah, you can like, there's the loogie games as well. So like now you can own like loogie coins and stuff like that. So just, you know, starting with like an NFT collection and then turning it into like a multiplayer game is something which you can do, for example.
Well, I think it's clear, like once you start talking about what can be built on it, what we've seen, there's just like this excitement level that builds, because it is really, really cool. Building on Ethereum is amazing. There's all these fantastic projects. And one of the really cool things I think that most of us that are involved in the Ethereum space care about is like, what's next? We don't know. There are so many different things that already have been built that matter, that are changing the world. And there's so many new things that are being built that, you know, some maybe you two have thought of, maybe you haven't, maybe someone listening has this idea and they just need to go through and take these next steps to really learn how to create, you know, smart contracts and how to build on Ethereum. And once they do, then like they're going to change the world. We just don't really know, which is why it's inspiring to hear about how this is, you know, how you start and where you can go from here. And kind of like that first step into learning about Ethereum might seem kind of scary. And like, as someone who's not a programmer or developer, hearing some of this terminology, like for me, I'm thinking like, oh God, I have so much to learn. But then at the same time, I'm hearing there are all these free tools. Here's access to them. Here's where you can go. This is an opportunity for you, and you have this option. And when I hear that, it's like, okay, so this is something that could work for me. This is something I can use to build on. And like, that's just awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there to learn. And, you know, I think that anyone who wants to get started can do that really easily, right? What I was going to say is, can I share my screen one more time here or
Yeah,
here?
please.
Cool. So what I was going to say is, so I always like to like kind of give people like guidance, right? So the first one is like, if you're somewhat, comfortable with a programming language and you want to build on Ethereum, go to speedrunethereum.com. That's a good kind of like first kind of example. After you do that, if you get a feel for kind of what these challenges are, or if you feel like it's a little bit too loose structured, I would recommend going to Growick. So I just want to show what kind of the experience is for people that might be interested in like going into Growick. So when you first come to growick.com, you can actually sign in here, and you can sign in with Google. It's free to sign up. You don't have to do anything crazy. And if you go to My Programs, you can enroll in a program. So if you click Solidity Developer and then click Apply as a Student, and then you can see my video right there. If you click Apply as a Student, under Programs, you'll get added to the upcoming program, which is starting on December 11th, okay? But what it looks like is once you get in here, is you have all these kind of like modules. So learning Solidity, primitive data types, and then you get a task where you have to actually like do something, and then you get a quiz that you have to take to kind of test your ability. So it's this kind of like guided path, and you make it all the way through down into that final project, right? You do all the speedrun challenges, and then you do that final project. I also wanted to mention one more thing. Nader Dabit, if you don't know Nader's a great advocate in the space. He's an advocate for Lens Protocol. He's got this really cool Nader's resources for developers. So I'll send you the link to this, Jessica. Maybe you can put it in the notes. But it's got a lot of these stuff and things that we talked about in it, and I think it would also be a good resource for people as well.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. I shared some of them in the chat, but we'll also add these resources to the description for this video as well. If you have follow-up questions on this and you add them in the comments for the video, we'll try to make sure that we answer them there as well. So if you're listening to this and you come away with questions, please put them there so that we're able to respond to you later on, because we want to see what you're going to build on Ethereum. So we are coming to the end of our time today. So Etta and Kevin, do you have any last parting words you would like to share with our audience?
I was just going to say, so I think like we talked a lot about like new concepts. And so I've been a developer in the Web3 space for 1.5 years. So it's actually not like, I think once you get started, it just kind of naturally, you kind of start learning and doing more. And then that's when you kind of get more grasp of it. I actually started just by, kind of learning and then creating content around what I was learning. So just don't be scared, because we use like a lot of new and different stuff. I think it's like super exciting. And I'm just very grateful to have entered. Just kind of want to say that as a last word.
That's inspiring to hear that you've been doing this for 1.5 years. I feel like that kind of helps lower the bar in some ways. Like you've been doing this for 1.5 years, you kind of like whip through all of that stuff. And for those of us who don't know all of the terms, it's like, oh, okay, so you didn't know all of these terms a few years ago either, and now look at you. So that it's definitely inspiring, I think. So thank you.
Etta's a rock star, so she's too modest to. By the way, follow Etta Tweets _ on Twitter, because she has some fire content. So I'm also on Twitter as well, Crypto Mastery _ That's funny, we both have underscores at the end of our Twitter.
Yeah, they got our actual
in the notes. The notes too will have links to all of this, including your Twitter handles, and anything else you want to add, you can let me know as well. So this was really cool. So sign up to learn more. Go search around for free. There's so many different options. They're going to be in our show notes here. So if you want to look in the description and figure out, next steps for you, we're excited to see what you build. And maybe in the future, if you're listening to this, you're going to build something that we're going to want to talk about on a future live stream. So it's pretty cool how it can come full circle. The opportunities exist for anyone. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Kevin and Etta, for taking your time to volunteer with C4 and to share with our audience. So yes, and with the dance always. All right, thank you.